Everything about religion started to make so much sense to me when I realized that it was never about spirituality and it was never about worshiping a higher power. It was always about men having power over women. Now, what do we know is the most powerful force on this planet? Sexual energy. Let's talk about that. In early societies, the feminine was revered. Women were worshipped for their ability to bring life force onto this planet. They were the creators, the life givers, the divine feminine. The patriarchy started growing and men started realizing they don't want to control their own sexual energy. They want to control the sexual energy of women. Instead of working on their own discipline, they started policing us, telling us to cover up, telling us to be quiet, telling us we don't know what we're talking about, telling us we're going to hell, condemning us, judging us, unaliving our children. All because they wanted to control the source of sexual energy in women. They demonized women's bodies because they feared it. They fear what they cannot control, hence why they created religion. But the thing that males have failed to realize is that sexual energy is nothing more than creative energy. The same energy that allows them to impregnate a woman is the same energy that allows them to write poetry and make art and dance and sing and create things and build things. That's the healthy way to channel your sexual energy as a human being. When sexual energy gets repressed or ignored or denied, it turns dark. It turns into dark, deviant energy. It becomes obsession, control, aggression, violence, and who is the target? Women. Unacknowledged sexual energy turns into resentment, and resentment turns into aggression. That's why there are so many angry men in our world today. That's why they have these systems set in place and these religions set in place and these societal constructs set in place because they want to control the women who are tempting them. The real problem is the fact that males don't value self-mastery. They don't understand how to turn that creative energy inwards and use it towards themselves instead of repressing it and letting the resentment and the anger take over them. Males got so frustrated with the sexual energy that women possess that they started shaming us for having it. So they made purity more important than creativity. They called our sensuality a sin. They turned God into a male and erased the divine feminine completely. They wrote rules that conveniently allowed them to have access to multiple women, multiple wives, child brides, and even war slaves, while demonizing women for literally existing in our bodies. This is not holiness. This is hunger in disguise. Males have short-term vision when it comes to the sexual energy. They want to act on it immediately. But what they don't realize is when they don't have the ability to act on it immediately and they repress it, it turns parasitic. It turns them into predators, not protectors. That's why so much violence against women is rooted in moral justification, like honor killings, right? And that's why so many leaders of the church and of the mosque fall into sin and have these huge scandals in their communities. It's literally because they're trying to control the wrong energy. They're trying to control women's sexual energy instead of their own sexual energy. Men have been lied to about their sexual creative energy, and they have been told that the only way to channel this energy is with intercourse with a woman. But what they don't realize is when you transmute this energy in yourself, instead of trying to control it in others, you're free. You free yourself. That's true freedom. If men were taught to sit with their desires and honor them as sacred, instead of feeling ashamed or guilty for having these desires, and they were encouraged to act on them in the form of creativity, art, poetry, dancing, singing, then number one, they would be less violent. And number two, we would be living in a more harmonious society because everyone would understand that the only energy they can control is their own sexual energy. If males stopped projecting their own sexual energy as sinful, especially onto other women, and they just allowed themselves to experience this energy in various ways, to transmute it and channel it in various ways, then they would be happy. They would be able to see women as muses, not as threats. They would be able to honor the divine feminine instead of being afraid of it and trying to repress it and control it. Now that we know that, we can understand that violence against women and oppression of women is nothing more than fear of the divine feminine. But if we had never separated the god from the goddess, males wouldn't be so afraid of women, and males wouldn't have to resort to violence and aggression in order to control this energy, because they would understand that the only control they have is internal. Their own sexual energy is the only control they have, and that control really is freedom. Being a divine feminine is not sinful, it's not shameful, and I will not be shrinking myself in order to give males a false sense of control over my own sexual energy. Reclaiming that power is what's gonna set us all free. Wake up.